nhớ rằng cho ý trong này thì cái tên là thia chụp hình mà cho lên số tu cũng nhiều cho vào được ba lúc nào giờ lúc bao hình tu lúc thì có chi xong thì có chi giờ như giờ kiếm một lúc về hồi thì Operation Popcorn giờ như giờ kiếm thua cho được trong phương America cho nênผมว่าbỏ thia Locha Thao thì giờ vì lý giải thia họ muốn đã chỉ nhớ cho họส่วนที่เราคุยกันในมือใช้คุณเราตัวดีเรคเตอร์ที่ตัวชื่อที่ตัวจีนเลยยังอยากกินอาชีพสอดกินอDavid, it's good to see you.
So nice to see you. Thanks for talking to me today.
Well, before we talk about the film, I would like you to introduce yourself to the Hmong community. So, do you know who you are?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's David Grabias. I'm a filmmaker, a documentary filmmaker. I've been making documentary films for 20 years. Most of my films have been broadcast on PBS, on HBO, on Discovery Channel, National Geographic. And most of the films that I make look at issues of identity, cultural identity, ethnic identity, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, what got into your interest to to produce this particular film?
Sure. So the last film that I made for public television looked at the Cambodian community and the issue of deportation. A lot of Cambodian kids were being deported back to Cambodia, which was pretty tragic. And we finished the film and we were doing screenings with the Southeast Asian community all over the United States at the time. This is in 2007. And after one of the screenings, someone came up to me and said, you know, this film you're doing is great, but if you really want an interesting story, you should look, you know, I don't know if you've heard, but this guy named General Vang Pao got arrested the other day, and that's the story you should be making a film about. And I didn't know, but I read some of the news reports and looked into it, and it was just such an incredible, crazy, fascinating story that I thought it was worth pursuing. And so I traveled. I live in Los Angeles. I went up to Sacramento and met with Locha Thao and some of the defendants, and managed to get access to film, and started and just it went from there.
Now, did you have experience working with the Hmong community before, you know, this film, or is this the first time that?
No, I was aware of the Hmong community just through work with the Southeast Asian community. I'd been involved with this last film doing, you know, citizenship drives and some stuff there, but I knew very little. So for me, it was a new experience, you know, kind of getting to know the Hmong community and really trying to understand the situation.
Now let's talk about the film. The film is not like, you know, started last year and then finished this year, but it's more than that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So it took us 7 years to make this film. We started filming in 2008, the period right after General Vang Pao and the others were arrested. And we started filming at that time. We filmed on and off for about 3 years, almost 4 years. And then took a little bit of a break, and then managed to get some access to some other footage, and it just took a long time. It's a very complicated story, very complex, and it took a long time to kind of get through all of the different perspectives, everyone's different story, to kind of understand what really happened. So it's been a long road.
Yeah. Can you brief, you know, kind of review a little bit about the film? I think you touched a little bit on that, but, you know, can you elaborate that a little bit, you know, so we kind of, you know, everyone kind of like, okay, this film's about what?
Sure. So the film focuses mostly on the case surrounding General Vang Pao and the others who were arrested in 2007 and accused of trying to overthrow the Lao government. So the film, we focus primarily in the film on the character of Locha Thao, who was one of the defendants and who was accused by the government as being kind of one of the primary defendant. And we tell Locha's personal story, his history as an individual, you know, born in Laos, escaping Laos from the war, arriving in the United States as a refugee, and kind of growing up here, getting involved in the community and politics. We use his story to kind of tell the larger context of the Hmong story, of the Hmong experience, and then from there we talk about how he got involved in this, you know, how it started, who we talked to, who we met, and then the rest of the film kind of goes through that story, that case. using footage from the ATF, from other places to kind of really show what happened, who was talking to who, and how it all kind of unraveled, leading up to the arrests of everyone.
Now, I believe that this film is under PBS program. Can you tell us a little bit about that too, and how they can be playing?
Sure. So the film was funded by the California Humanities Council and the Center for Asian American Media. The Center for Asian American Media is a part of public television, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And so through them, the film will air on PBS in 2016, next spring. As soon as we will know more in the fall in terms of details of dates and times, which I'll be excited to share. But so it will air on PBS. And then between now and then, over the course of the next 6 months, year, we'll be screening the film at film festivals and then trying to organize community events to try and get the film out there and share it with the community.
Now, after 7 years, now it's completed. How do you feel about making this film?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty amazing story. I mean, I think it's the story of not just Locha Thao, who's an interesting character, but of the community itself and of this very I think important period in Hmong history. The arrest of General Vang Pao, the death of General Vang Pao, and this transition period between the older generation and the younger generation, kind of rising up and becoming the leaders of the community. So I think it's an incredible story from that perspective. I think for me, a lot of the film has to do with the idea of what is it? How does one become a leader in the community? Do you become a leader like in the old days, or do you become a leader in the new days? How does that work? And sometimes it doesn't work.
Yes.
And so for me, that's a pretty impressive point. And I think it's also one of the most amazing things for me was during the period when the case was on trial, there were a series of rallies that were held in Sacramento, all over the country. And and at those rallies, you would have thousands of people who came out, both older generation, but also a lot of young people, high school kids, university kids. And to see this younger generation for the first time kind of come to terms and begin to understand and try and make sense of their own history and what this case meant and how they could kind of take that and turn it into their own story was pretty amazing.
Now, this film, the title of this film is Operation Popcorn. Why is that?
So the title of the film comes from a document where when Locha and the others were talking to this arms dealer, this weapons dealer, he asked them for their plan. He said, "Oh, what's the plan?" And so
like a project name or something.
A project name, yeah. And they didn't really have any document or any plan. And so they talked, and they had someone write up kind of a script for what the plan could be. And that person named it Operation Popcorn.
Okay.
And Popcorn is an acronym. It stands for, I think, People's Opposition Party, coup something, I forget exactly.
But that way.
Yeah, but so that's where it comes from.
Now, again, after 7 years making this film, one thing that you learned from this film about the Hmong people, what is that?
I learned a lot about the Hmong people over 7 years. I mean, I think, for me, I think the most important takeaway was just, the notion that the Hmong people, have a real right to be in the United States, that they had shed blood, that they had suffered, and that, that really entitled them to not only a right to be in the United States, but also, that there's a debt that the United States owes the Hmong people, for what they did, in the 1960s and 1970s.
Now, this film going to be premiered tonight, which is the April 14, 2015, here at St. Anthony Theater in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Is there going to be some other area? I think you mentioned that before, but
Sure. Yeah. So there'll be
coming soon.
Yeah. So the film premieres tonight. There'll be another screening this week in Minneapolis, and then we're in talks with a number of film festivals all over the United States to try and get the film out there at film festivals. And then we'll also be organizing with local community groups, hopefully with PBS as well, to try and set up screenings, kind of town hall community events in local towns all over the United States. Again, the goal really is to get the film out there, to use it as an educational tool and as a way to encourage dialogue and encourage people to talk about, about Hmong history, Hmong American identity, and kind of what this case means to the community.
So I think we touched a lot about some of the detail of the film already, but the takeaway of the film, when someone come and watch, was
I think, that there's no real, I think the moral of the film or the lesson of the film is that, that it's, trying to for anyone who's an immigrant or a refugee or who comes from another country, there's a constant struggle to kind of balance, the culture and the identity of your homeland with the culture and identity of the United States. And I think that there's a real tension and challenge there that everyone tries to negotiate or navigate. And, and I think the lesson of the film is that it's not easy. It's, integrating from one culture into another is very difficult. And, and I think, not easy, and it can lead to some real challenges and real problems that people need to think about.
Well, before we go, do you have something to share with the Hmong community, something that we haven't talked about that you would like to share with them?
Sure. I just think, I think for me, I feel incredibly humbled and grateful for the hospitality and for the opportunity, really, to have spent time in the community, to have met so many people and had so many conversations about this subject. And that's, I feel very, very lucky and privileged by that. And and I hope, again, the film, the film doesn't have a message or an ideology or a politic. The film really is, I hope that people take it and use it as just the basis for something to talk about, that it encourages discussion and gets people thinking and talking, and whatever they think, whatever they say, it doesn't matter to me. It's more, just trying to get it out there and get that.
It's more like a historical, history.
Yeah, and I think exactly, so that when people, people have the opportunity to start to try and figure out again what it means to be Hmong American.
Sure. Well, Dave, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
一种的这个定价贴中朋友们说从这度可能可把大人要观察到都知这都进的让人家给我们背后的 Operation Popcorn 让人家给呢要让人家给ทั่전的政府อเมริกาสอนในผมว่าปอ Locha Thao ตัวจงตัวในมุ่งจะเธอเจ้าตัวรู้โจลินตัวที่เปล่าชงอาเซียตัวรอ让人家给呢จะอยู่จอดเตยเนี่ยตัวเดอ St. Anthony Theater เนี่ยตัวรู้ตัว Minneapolis เขาเซมิเนโซตาตัวตากีสิริยารู้เปล่าลินตัวที่ก็ตัวชงอาเซียก็จีนอยันในที่จังชิตาปอที่ชิตาใช้บ้านมุใช้เตากูอยากรู้จักว่าหรือว่านักการเมืองในส่วนนี้สุดตัวเป็นมาชินจีดัว